lot of people ask me, how do I add my lighting to my buildings? Now, I don't actually wire the buildings up with lights. I leave the buildings completely empty, which is a good thing to sort of pick up and dust or create any maintenance to. Also, having a little wire structure underneath I find is really unique, because that means I can lift off a building or get to it without any problems. And it's very handy if I add new items, like a new trolley that's just arrived. So we'll put that there, and we'll put our station building back, and I'll show you how I make a wireframe work. Okay, so the concept here is to make a wireframe underneath the structure or the building that we've created. Now here we're using a canopy, and I can put some wire rodding underneath and then add the lighting to it, so I can lift off the structure without unplugging any lighting, and that will make it easy to access. So I think next thing is to make some holes, mark it all up, and make a framework. So next step is to choose some lighting. This is 6-volt Christmas tree lighting that you find on Christmas decorations, that kind of thing, so it's low voltage. Now we need to sort of cut them up where we want them. So I get some scissors. Here I'm just cutting the desired bulbs that I need. I think I want about 6 or so. That should give me enough for the moment. Alright, and it's just a case of making a framework for these to fit on. Now I've got some brass, and it's just bent into like a goalpost shape. Now, as you can see, I've actually manipulated it to fit inside the little pillars. You can see I just slide it in here. Now, by having that like that, that will protrude into the baseboard, the bit sticking down. So that will give me the pegs to attach the plus and minus. So I think we'll make the other leg, because we need 2 of these. So once we've finished the other goalpost, that will give us 2 legs to hold the wiring. So the idea now is just to make sure they fit in the apertures, and they're comfortable and not being awkward in any way. They look good, that's okay, and they're protruding, so they'll go through the baseboard. I think from this point onwards we now need to make some marks onto the layout, so we'll have to fit the canopy back onto the layout, just to make sure we know where the holes and where the intention of where they're going to go. So taking a pencil or a pen, mark round the pillar that you've chosen for your post, or where the wire's going to go through. Do the back and do the front. I'm also going to do the other side as well. And as the case now, we'll remove the canopy and start drilling a couple of little holes, and we'll do that on both sides. Now we'll fit the first goalpost and we'll poke that through the layout. And now with that one done, we now need to do the other one. So just drill them holes, and then we'll put the other little goalpost in. We push that in, get it to where we want it to look. And at this point, it's good to do a loose fit with our building, our structure, in our case, our canopy. So before we do that, just mark underneath where you've got the wires poking through. It's always good when you want to feed them back through, you'll know where you're looking at. And this is a good point to add your plus and minus for your resistor, which you'll put on your plus. So that's a good point to do this now. Adding the structure back on, and do a loose test fit, make sure it sits where it should do. That looks good, and it's not wobbling. That's the key at this point. And the legs are hidden inside, so you can't see them, and that's really the best time to adjust anything if you need to. Okay, so let's have an overall look. This is our goalposts as they're going to look. So from this point onwards, we need to strip these off and then refit them to the framework of the building, and add a cross member from left to right now. So we need to join up the goalpost from the left to the goalpost to the right. It's not easy to say. And we're just going to solder them in now and make a superstructure. So this will give the integrity ready for when we put the lights in. At this point, it's very key to get a strength in the framework when we're adding the LEDs, and then we'll adjust it as we go on. Now just soldering, just using flux and normal solder, and just doing each corner, and there we go. That gives us our structure. As you can see, it's like a little H shape with legs, and then at this point we will then add our LED lighting. Okay, so once you've got your structure and you've got your framework, have a little look where your lights and your LEDs are going to sit. That's pretty key. Once you've worked that out, it's a good time to get your bulbs, check they all work, and make sure you've got your plus and minus around the right way. Okay, so I'm just tinning each end so they bond well to the brass rod, and then this is a good idea to make sure you get your positives on one side of the rod and your minuses on the other side of the rod, so your lights have the same polarity on either side of the rod. I'm just going to snip off any protruding parts because you don't want them to catch in your building or structure, and do a little test fit, check your lights in the way you want them, and obviously make sure they are around the right way. Okay, so as you can see from the wire frame, we've got a plus and a minus. The black is the minus and the red is a plus. We need to separate the pole in the middle, so we need to snip the orange bit that I've highlighted here. That will break the feed, so we have no polarity interference. So just marking it here, that's the part we'll snip out, and then that'll keep the plus and minus separate so they feed the LEDs correctly. And you'll need to do this on the back and the front. The reason why I added this was to keep the structure and to keep all the legs in a straight position whilst building the framework to fit the building or canopy. So that's all done. I think the next phase now is we need to add this to the layout, and then choose a resistor. And now I'm going to use a 1K resistor. You can see the red leg there. I will add the resistor to this bit and add the plus power, which will feed here. Right, so I've taken the structure, I've actually slotted it into the little holes onto the layout, and I've wired up the polarity of the plus and minus, and it's all working, which is good. So adding the building or structure straight on top, you can adjust the height of the wire frame, and then you can fix it in place once you're happy with your desired height. Now, as you can see, all looks good, looks snug, and everything is where it should be. The only thing you can see is a little bit of shine on the grass rodding. So I think the thing to do now is use some enamel paint. I'm going to use some grey here, dark grey, just to paint over the brass rodding, just to sort of disguise it as if it was cable trunking or drain pipe, that kind of thing, which you would see quite prototypically in a building. Now in a depot you could use gas pipe, you could paint them yellow, all that kind of thing. So there's lots of scope and how you hide them. But as you can see, it hides quite well, and again they fade quite nicely in the background, and the ceiling there, the lighting is well hidden. So all in all, very happy. And of course there's always that one more job, and that is to dress the area and add our vehicles to the yard here to finish off the whole scene. So we'll just add these and stand back and admire how it looks, and I think all in all it certainly looks a lot better than it was.